We live in a world where noise is celebrated more than progress, where showing off matters more than showing up. But here's the truth. Real growth doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens when no one's watching. It happens in silence. Working in silence isn't about hiding, it's about building. Because in the quiet, there's clarity. And in that clarity, you find discipline. Every meaningful achievement in history started with someone quietly committing to something greater than themselves. No cameras, no applause, just effort, daily, consistent effort. People often confuse silence with weakness, but silence is a form of strength. It means you're not driven by the need to prove. You're driven by the need to grow. It means you're more focused on getting it right than getting recognized. We live in an age of instant validation. Everyone wants to show how hard they're working. Post every step, share every win. But when you're truly focused on your mission, you don't have time to explain it. You're too busy building it. And that's what makes success powerful. When it arrives, it needs no introduction. It speaks for itself. But let's not mistake silence for ease. This path is hard. It's lonely. It requires you to trust your direction even when no one else sees the vision. It demands sacrifice. It demands faith. And most importantly, it demands that you stay committed long after the excitement fades. So why choose this path? Because the best success is not the one you announce. It's the one they never saw coming. It's the result that speaks louder than your words ever could. The kind that doesn't just impress, it inspires. The world will always try to distract you. But don't let the noise confuse you. Progress is quiet. Mastery is silent. And greatness is often built far away from the crowd. So work, not for attention, not for praise, but because your purpose is worth it. And when the results show, when the work pays off, let them be shocked. Not because you told them who you were, but because you showed them. There is a quiet kind of power that most people underestimate. In a world where voices are raised to be heard, where visibility is often mistaken for value, we forget that some of the most impactful transformations happen in complete silence. Silence is not an absence of activity. It is often a sign of deep presence, of internal work that is deliberate, focused, and powerful beyond measure. When someone chooses to be silent, it does not mean they are doing nothing. It means they are doing the hard things without the need for external approval. Silence, in its truest form, is not a weakness. It is a decision. It's a conscious choice to step away from validation, from noise, from applause, and to focus entirely on what truly matters, the work itself. Silence is where the roots of real mastery grow. Think of a seed buried in the ground. No one sees the seed break open, struggle through the soil, or stretch its fragile stem toward the surface. But the process is happening, quietly, powerfully, and without any need for attention. There's a difference between hiding and choosing to stay silent. Hiding is rooted in fear. Silence, when embraced intentionally, is rooted in strength. It's the strength of someone who knows their journey isn't a show, it's a process, and processes don't need audiences. In fact, the presence of an audience often disrupts the purity of growth. When your attention shifts toward impressing others, you lose focus on improving yourself. People who work in silence understand something that many overlook. Not everything needs to be said, shared, or posted. Some victories are private, some progress is personal, and some efforts, when nurtured in silence, grow into something too large to be ignored. Silence allows you to build a foundation that is strong, steady, and unshaken by the opinions of others. It teaches you to rely on your internal compass rather than external applause. There's a strange confidence that comes from not needing to talk about what you're doing. It's not arrogance, it's trust. Trust in the process, trust in the goal. Trust that when the time is right, the results will speak in ways louder than any words ever could. It's the confidence of the athlete who trains while everyone else parties, the artist who practices brushstrokes late into the night, the entrepreneur who stays up studying after everyone else has gone to bed. They don't talk much about it. They don't broadcast every step, but the silence around their efforts only makes the result more powerful when it's finally revealed. We have grown up in a culture that equates presence with progress. If people see it, they believe it. But that mindset misses something essential. Visibility is not the same as value. Just because something is loud doesn't mean it's right. And just because something is quiet doesn't mean it's insignificant. In fact, the most important growth often happens far from the spotlight, in the solitude of commitment, repetition, and sacrifice. Silence gives you room to make mistakes, to experiment, to get better without judgment. It removes the pressure to perform and gives you permission to improve. Without anyone watching, you're free to be bad at something before you're good at it. You can fall without shame and rise with dignity. That is strength. That is resilience. And that is the beginning of real success. When you operate in silence, you don't waste energy explaining your path to people who aren't walking it. You save that energy for the climb, for the grind, for the real effort that creates real change. Your silence is not a retreat. It is a strategy, a way to stay focused, a way to protect your energy, a way to keep your eyes on the work and not the scoreboard. People will always talk. They will wonder. They will question. They will even doubt. Let them. Because when the results come, they'll speak for themselves. And when they do, the world won't ask where you were. They'll be asking how you got so far ahead, so quietly. In a time where noise dominates everything, social media feeds, workspaces, conversations, it's easy to believe that the louder you are, the more progress you're making. But that's a misconception. The truth is, real progress is not about how much noise you make, but about how consistent you are when nobody's watching. Consistency is what separates the ones who talk from the ones who actually do. It's what turns effort into mastery and potential into results. Noise is tempting. It's exciting. It gives you the illusion of motion. When people talk about their goals all the time, post about their hustle, or announce every small win, it creates the image that they're constantly moving forward. But noise can be deceptive. It can distract you from doing the work that actually matters. It can lure you into spending more time talking about what you're doing than doing it. That's where many people get stuck. They become addicted to the performance of progress instead of the discipline of progress. Consistency, on the other hand, is steady. It doesn't care if it's being seen or celebrated. It shows up regardless of recognition. It doesn't get excited by short bursts of effort. It's not impressed by occasional highs. Consistency is quiet, routine, often boring, but it's the most powerful force behind any long-term success. You don't need to be loud to get results. You need to be reliable. You need to be the kind of person who shows up every day, not just when it feels good, not just when it's convenient, but especially when it's hard. People often look for motivation, hoping that if they feel inspired enough, they'll be able to commit. But motivation comes and goes. It's emotional. It's unstable. It's based on how you feel. Consistency is not emotional. It's a decision. It's a promise you make to yourself and keep even on the days you don't feel like it, especially on those days. Because what you do in the dark, in the silence, in the quiet repetition of daily effort, that's what builds something real. We see success stories all the time and assume there must be something dramatic behind them, some huge moment, some breakthrough, some spark. But most of the time, what lies behind those stories is someone who simply refused to stop. They did the work when it wasn't glamorous. They kept showing up when no one clapped. They kept going when others quit, not because they were better, smarter, or luckier, but because they were consistent over time. Small efforts done daily become unstoppable. In life, the compound effect is real. Small steps done again and again will always outperform big steps taken once in a while. That's the part most people miss. They sprint, hoping for quick wins, but they can't maintain it. It's not sustainable. Consistency is not about speed, it's about endurance. It's about creating rhythms in your life that make your habits stronger than your moods. When you choose consistency over noise, you choose substance over appearance. You choose long-term gain over short-term attention. No one may notice at first. That's fine. Consistency doesn't need an audience. It's a private agreement between your values and your actions. When those two things align, success is just a matter of time. The work adds up. The days build on each other, and eventually you find yourself standing on a foundation that noise could never create. It's solid, it's earns real. When people wonder how someone became successful, seemingly overnight, they often forget to ask how long that person was quietly consistent before anyone cared. The truth is there are no overnight successes, just long-term commitments that were made quietly, consistently, and without fanfare. So if you have to choose between being heard and being consistent, choose consistency. Because the world might not hear you today, but your results will speak volumes tomorrow. There's a reason why some people keep going when others quit. It's not because they have more energy, more time, or more resources. It's because they have something powerful inside them that pushes them forward, a purpose. Purpose is not a vague idea or an inspiring quote. It's a deep understanding of why you're doing what you're doing. It's the reason behind the work, the drive behind the effort, and the meaning behind the pain. Without purpose, persistence becomes difficult to sustain. With purpose, even the hardest path becomes walkable. When you know your purpose, you stop needing motivation from outside. You stop looking for applause or attention to keep going. The fire is lit within you, and that fire burns long after the noise fades. Purpose doesn't just inspire action. It sustains it. It gives your journey a sense of direction. It reminds you that your struggle isn't empty. It's connected to something that matters to you on a personal, emotional, and even spiritual level. Persistence isn't about being stubborn for the sake of it. It's not about grinding endlessly without reflection. True persistence is intentional. It's powered by clarity. You keep going not just because you started, but because you understand why it's worth finishing. Purpose gives you that why. It becomes the anchor when things get hard, because they will. No meaningful path is free from difficulty. You will face failure. You will face doubt. You will feel the weight of fatigue, the temptation to give up, the voice that says, maybe this isn't worth it. And in those moments, purpose is the only voice that speaks louder. Many people set goals, but very few understand the deeper reason behind them. That's why they fall off when the excitement disappears. If your goal is just to impress someone or to match someone else's pace, you'll burn out quickly. But if your goal is tied to a belief, a mission or a value that truly matters to you, you'll endure more than you thought possible. Purpose turns effort into devotion. It turns repetition into discipline. And it turns setbacks into lessons, not defeats. People sometimes mistake persistence for pressure. They think forcing yourself to move forward is strength, but forcing yourself without knowing why is just exhaustion in disguise. Real strength is when your actions align with your values. That's what makes you powerful. Not just working hard, but working hard for something that resonates with your heart. Purpose makes persistence feel less like a burden and more like an act of service to your future self. When you act from purpose, you become less reactive to your surroundings. Distractions lose their grip. Comparison fades. You stop measuring your pace against others and start measuring it against your potential. Purpose creates focus. It narrows your vision so you don't waste energy on things that don't serve your mission. And in that focused state, persistence becomes natural. It becomes part of who you are, not just something you do. This is why some people can spend years building something quietly without recognition. They're not moved by opinions. They're moved by purpose. That's their fuel. When progress is slow, they still show up. When results aren't visible, they still believe, because they're not chasing attention. They're chasing alignment between what they do and who they want to be. That kind of persistence doesn't burn out. It deepens. It matures. It grows with time. Purpose is what turns silence into strategy and effort into meaning. It's the inner reason you choose to keep moving even when no one is cheering, even when no one notices, and even when the outcome is uncertain. Purpose gives you the courage to continue, not because success is guaranteed, but because quitting would mean disconnecting from something you truly care about. And when you care deeply enough, persistence becomes not just a habit, but a way of life. People often spend more time explaining their goals than executing them. They want to be understood, validated, praised before they've even started. But the truth is, when you're truly focused on building something great, you don't have time to convince others. You let your results do that for you. Success, when it's real, speaks louder than any words. It's undeniable. It doesn't need justification or defense. It stands on its own. And that's why it's the loudest response you can ever give to doubt, criticism, or silence from others. There will always be people who question your path. They'll doubt your ability, criticize your vision, and expect you to fail. That's a part of the process. But responding to doubt doesn't mean arguing or trying to prove yourself with words. That only drains your energy and shifts your focus from doing the work to defending your identity. What works better is staying quiet, staying consistent, and letting your success deliver the message. Because once you achieve something meaningful, the very people who questioned you are forced to reevaluate what they once dismissed. Success doesn't shout, it echoes. It echoes into places your words never could. It shows people what's possible. It turns silence into respect. It turns critics into observers. When you succeed, not just once, but consistently, you shift the conversation without ever opening your mouth. You don't have to say you were right. You don't have to remind people that you were doubted. The outcome says it all. And that's far more powerful than any debate or explanation. But success is only loud to those who are not paying attention while you were working. To you, it won't feel loud at all. It'll feel like the result of silent mornings, quiet nights, and hours of disciplined, focused effort. You'll know that what the world now sees was once invisible. You'll remember the parts of the journey no one applauded, the sacrifices, the setbacks, the sleepless moments. That's what makes success so satisfying. It's not the praise. It's the contrast between where you started and where you've arrived. There's a certain elegance in letting your actions speak. It doesn't just make you effective, it makes you respected. People trust results, they admire outcomes. And while flashy words may win temporary attention, long-term respect comes from consistent achievement. This is why it's smarter to remain grounded and quiet while building. The less you try to impress others, the more you impress yourself through real progress. And eventually, your progress becomes impossible to ignore. Success has a language. It's spoken through change, through growth, through improvement. It's seen in how you evolve, how you handle challenges, and how you create impact. When people watch you go from being overlooked to being unstoppable, they understand something shifted, not because you told them, but because they saw it. That's a message no words can carry. It's a message written in effort, carved in discipline, and delivered in results. We live in a culture that rewards noise. People are often celebrated for saying the right thing at the right time, even if there's no depth behind it. But that celebration is short-lived. Lasting influence comes from substance, from doing the thing, not just talking about it. And when you commit to that mindset, focusing more on action than attention, you start building a legacy that can't be shaken by opinions. You don't need to argue. You don't need to announce. You just need to deliver. Let others seek attention. You focus on achievement. Let others explain themselves endlessly. You focus on mastering your craft. Let others make noise. You create results. Because when it's all said and done, it won't be your words that define you. It'll be the life you built, the standard you set, and the example you became. And that will always be louder than anything you could have ever said. There is a powerful difference between working from purpose and working from ego. Ego wants to be seen. It wants recognition, validation, and applause. It craves attention more than achievement. But real success, lasting, meaningful success is not about satisfying the ego. It's about creating something that speaks for itself. The most respected individuals in any field are not the ones who talk the most, boast the loudest, or constantly remind others of their value. They're the ones whose results do the talking. They carry quiet confidence, not because they think less of themselves, but because they've learned that value isn't something you announce, it's something you demonstrate. Ego is loud because it's insecure. It's always trying to convince others of something it's not even sure of itself. But when you put your head down and focus on the work, you build something real, something you don't need to defend or promote constantly. When the work is honest, the results will eventually rise. And when the results are clear, there's no need to explain them. That's the beauty of letting your actions speak. They carry weight. They cut through noise. They prove everything words try to prove, but more effectively. When your focus is on proving people wrong or showing off what you've done, you're letting your ego drive your direction. The problem is ego is never satisfied. It always wants more praise, more validation. And when that praise isn't there, it collapses. That's why so many people quit when they don't get immediate attention. Their ego was fueling their ambition, not their purpose. But when you're led by discipline and belief in your mission, external recognition becomes a bonus, not a requirement. The moment you stop needing to be seen is the moment you truly start to grow. Because now your energy isn't being spent trying to impress anyone. It's being used to refine your skill, sharpen your discipline, and stay consistent. You're not looking over your shoulder to see who's watching. You're looking straight ahead, fully committed to your path. And ironically, it's in that state where you stop trying to stand out that you actually begin to. The best work often comes from a place of humility. That doesn't mean you think less of yourself. It means you're honest about where you are, what you know, and how far you still have to go. Humility keeps you learning. Ego keeps you stuck. When your ego says, I've got this, humility says, let's keep getting better. That mindset opens the door to mastery. Because mastery doesn't come from a need to show off. It comes from the quiet repetition of showing up. Letting your results speak is not about being invisible. It's about being intentional. It's about choosing impact over attention. It's not that you don't want your work to be noticed. It's that you want it to be noticed for the right reasons. You want it to stand on its own, not because of how well you talked about it, but because of how well you executed it. You want the product of your discipline, effort, and commitment to shine through. When people see excellence, they respect it. They don't need to be told it's excellent. That's the effect of true results. They resonate. And they make the loudest noise in the quietest way. No ego needed, just integrity, persistence, and real outcomes. That's what earns trust. That's what builds legacy. Many people waste years trying to protect their ego, to make sure no one sees them fail, to maintain a certain image. But the ones who make real progress are not afraid of being overlooked. They're not scared of failure. They're not chasing attention. They're chasing growth. They're building behind the scenes, improving without permission, and trusting that the work will reveal itself in time. And when it does, it won't be a surprise. It will be the natural result of focus, humility, and silent discipline. The world is filled with noise, voices demanding to be heard, people chasing applause, and egos competing for recognition. But the most impactful individuals are not always the loudest. They are the ones who understand the power of silence, the discipline of consistency, and the unwavering strength of purpose. They choose to focus on the work rather than the attention. They understand that success is not something you announce. It's something you build quietly and relentlessly. In silence, you discover who you are. Through consistency, you refine what you do. Fueled by purpose, you find the will to persist. And with every sacrifice, every unnoticed hour, you move closer to a result that will speak louder than anything you could have said. A result that won't need defending. A success that will silence every doubt, not through confrontation, but through undeniable proof. Let others chase recognition. You chase excellence. Let others talk. You act. Let them forget your name for now, because soon your results will remind them. Work hard in silence, not because the world isn't watching, but because it doesn't need to. Let them be shocked, not by your words, but by your results.